Peter Eliades with you. This is Stock Market Cycles Update for Wednesday, February 12th. Take a look at this. This is the daily advanced decline line of the New York Stock Exchange. This is one of the very few items that is keeping me as a long-term technician in the stock market from being super bearish here, because as you know, some of our projections are being met very nicely over the past day or two, especially today. But the fact that the daily AD line keeps going to new highs is troubling in terms of thinking that this is a final top. Some kind of top, perhaps. Again, I've said this a lot over the last few months, but I still think, based on decades and decades of market history, that we will not see a final high in this incredible bull market until we have some kind of divergence in the daily advanced decline line. Okay, so that much having been said, does that mean we can't be at a short-term top here? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Let's take a look at some charts that might argue for some kind of top being formed here, okay? First one we want to look at is the closing price charts that we've talked about over the past few days. This is for the S&P 500. Back here a couple of weeks ago, on February 5th, we told you, actually that was about 1 week ago to be exact, on February 5th, we got confirmed upside closing price projections calling for a minimum of 3367.38 and as high as 3400 and change. Well, we finally met that projection today. What else met the projection today on a closing basis? Let's take a look. Dow Jones Industrial Average. I mean, how close can you get? The lower side of this projection, now mind you again, these are closing price projections, not intraday, called for a minimum close up to 29,547.02. Today's close 29,551.42, 4 points into the projection window. Nonetheless, it reached into the projection window. So those are the closing price projections. Let's take a quick look at the bar charts. This is the Russell 2000. As you can see, that's quite a distance away from meeting this upside projection, which calls for 1716.56 rounded off. But let's take a look at Well. Now, this should look very familiar to a lot of you. We had something like this happen on our nominal 40-week projection back in December. The S&P just barely missed its nominal 40-week projection, while the New York Composite and the Dow were quite a distance away. And that's kind of what's happening here. If we zoom in on this chart, I mean, visually now it looks like it was just barely met. But if you zoom in on it, you can see there's a little gap in here. We didn't quite get up there. We'll give you the exact numbers. The minimum upside projection was 3382.22, and the high today was 3381.47. I mean, you don't get much closer than that, and for all practical purposes, you can say that projection has been met. So I wanted to show you that some projections are being met. And when some projections are being met, you face the possibility of some kind of pullback to the downside if they are upside projections in the market. If these were downside projections, the possibility of some kind of rally. So that's where we stand today. But there's one critically important chart, and it's the last one I'm going to show you. And that chart is on the New York Composite Index closing price projection, not the nominal 20-day that we've been looking at, but this is the next longer term projection, which is the nominal 5-week projection. And take a look at this little baby. Take a look at this little baby. So this one actually is for the nominal 20-day, which is still unmet on the New York Composite. So that's one of the reasons to think that if we are going to see a short-term top, we're probably not there yet. I would be willing to wager, not a lot, but I'd be willing to wager that this projection of 14,212.60 will be met before we have any kind of significant pullback. But what's making me start to think that indeed we may be looking at a longer time span before we see our final high. Look at this that happened today with the New York Composite Index. We got a cross above the initial 12.1 offset yesterday, and today we followed through and got a cross above the 13.8 offset also. What kind of projection did they give? Well, look at this. That's quite a ways up. The minimum upside projection is 14,448.48. That's about 2.5% higher than today's close. So that's a realistic projection, okay? And as I've told you before, the New York Composite Index is one of the most reliable and consistent, accurate projection generators. So, but this does not mean that this is going to happen or should happen in the next couple of days. What it's starting to look like to us, we've got a lot of things happening. I'm going out on this pointer here because if looking out into the future, and my cursor here is out into almost the middle of March, this could happen. It could happen in the next day or two. We have no guarantees with these projections as to when they're going to be met or even if they're going to be met. But this one is saying that this is a pretty high confidence projection up to this level. Look at the last downside projection here. Virtually perfect. The low was 13,614.10. The low end was 13,614 rounded off. Come on, folks. You don't get much closer or much better than that. What a great downside closing price projection. That's why I love the New York Composite Index for its closing price projections. So this one is a pretty high confidence projection. Odds on it, I would say at the very minimum 65 to 70% and probably closer to 75 to 85% that this projection will be met. We just don't know when. All this goes to say, don't be in a huge hurry to be getting negative here. Yes, we believe we are in the process of forming one of the most important market tops in history, but all the pieces are not lined up yet. Keep your eyes on our projections. They're going to help you significantly. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with you again tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And once the bell comes up, click on the notification bell. You'll be notified of all our updates as soon as they go on. Thanks for watching.